Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the UrbanCred podcast. Today we'll be interviewing Shane. He is quite a few things. He is a videographer, right? He is a Michelin guide. He works for Michelin Guide. He does he does different kinds of film. He does photo. He does food, and he also enjoys cooking on the side. He also has a wealth of knowledge in terms of, traveling, taking gorgeous images, wherever he goes. And he's also just really a really talented person. He's also helped, UrbanCred, my company, produce our first, commercial. And it was really fun to kind of see him behind the scenes, see how he works, and also see how he deals with unexpected situations. So I'm just going to let him take it away. So can you, Shane, give us like a rundown of like who you are and what you do, kind of a simple breakdown for our listeners?
Hey everyone, my name is Shane, and I am for some people would call me a videographer. Some people would call me a filmmaker, depending on what I'm working on. When I'm a videographer, I'm usually working as a one-man team with different brands to help them create their videos from planning to shooting to editing. When I'm a filmmaker, I usually am the one directing the films on set. And at times I travel a lot also to work on different brand videos. And during those times, I'm just a photographer. That's kind of the myriad of things that I do. And, I just work on a bunch of different things, and I currently live in New York City. And when I'm not, I'm usually around the world somewhere.
Awesome. Yeah. So very talented guy, well-traveled. You can't see him right now because it's an audio medium, but he's a very handsome dude. And he's taken. So that's unfortunate for the ladies. But, it's interesting it's always, when you're on social media, it's always nice to see like really nice photos and, really nice imagery. Same thing with film and video. And, it's not easy, but it's also very easy these days to start, but it's not easy to master, I feel like. And we'll go into that a little later, but I just kind of wanted to see like, how did you kind of get here? Was it like you were 10 and you're like, oh, you grabbed the camera, like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm going to do in the future. Or was it, like there's like, Asian parents and then you had to deal with like other issues, or was it like multiple, like you went to school and you didn't know what you're doing? Can you give us kind of like a background?
I guess I'm one of the people that found out a bit earlier, but not too early. I did during the high school, I was on the traditional Asian path. I applied to Harvard pre-law and I got waitlisted. And then I was like, all right, I guess I'm not doing pre-law. And I decided, and I picked up a camera, and then I was like, okay, well, I guess I can make my decision now. So I decided to not go to Berkeley and I decided to go community college actually for 2 years to do my GEs. And then I transferred to film school. Yeah, my parents were not happy about that. I don't think my parents or my dad didn't talk to me for like 2 years.
Oh shit!
And then I got like best film in college, and then that's when I'm like, okay, I guess we're kind of good. So that was like kind of the small, long story short arc.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Was it? I know you mentioned that you had to transition because you got waitlisted, and you decided just not to go. But was it like a tough decision during that time to do that?
No, it wasn't. It was like, okay, if I get in, all right, fine, I'll give it a shot. But if I didn't get in, I was like, okay, I don't want to do any of the STEM majors, like the science, technology, engineering, math, any of those stuff. The problem is I was good at that because I took all the APs possibles during high school. I had a good GPA and everything, so it was like, it'd be weird for me to not go towards STEM.
Right.
And then I was like, well, I kind of suck at creative stuff, so I might as well go into creative stuff because I need to balance it out, right?
Okay.
So I decided to go into creative stuff.
Wow, that's an interesting decision making thought process. Is it was it tough? Because it wasn't like you started off as you didn't go like to classes in the very beginning, right? In terms of creativity and video or whatever you just whatever the first classes you took were. Was it tough to kind of like wrap your head around the concepts?
The first ever film class I took, I already started shooting.
Okay.
Kind of a year before that, but I wasn't good at all, you know? Like I understood all the basics. So the class was just to solidify my knowledge. Oh yeah, okay, I know this stuff already, and how can I improve from there? But trust me, I was not good at all. All my stuff was really bad and really ugly. Sometimes I still go back to it just to remind myself how bad I was and how far I've come.
Right.
You can't find those videos anymore publicly, but I still have it online somewhere secretly.
Damn.
Just to remind myself.
We missed our chances.
I mean, if you search really hard, potentially you can find one of my really bad videos.
Oh man, it's time to do like a scavenger hunt. You gotta give us hints and stuff.
But hopefully right now when you search my name, it's only the good stuff.
Good stuff.
But there are a ton of people who went to my school who already decided to go towards like an art direction. And they were, way better than me in terms of photography and video stuff. Their stuff just looks so much better than mine because they already like wanted to do that. Mm-hmm. And I kind of just like, okay, well, I'm not good at it. I feel like I can be good at it. I have a lot of ideas. So why don't I go for it? And it wasn't until like at least 3-4 years before I can finally say, okay, I'm decent at it. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy. Would you say like this is kind of humble, not humble, but would you say you're caught up in terms of skill with your friends or?
No, I feel like it's when people get ahead, it kind of snowballs.
I see.
And that's how it is for the creative field. It snowballs depending on how early you get into it. But that's which isn't to say that you cannot catch up. You can start later. It doesn't matter when you start. I have friends who are 28, 29. They just want to start getting into film and photo, and they ask me for help. And they say, is it too late to catch up? And I would tell them, no, as long as you're willing to put in the effort, it doesn't matter when you start, and as long as you want to make that transition, or as long as you are sure this is what you want to do, it doesn't really matter where you are. Yeah, I do know that there are plenty of people who are either younger than me or the same age as me who are much further in terms of career of the stuff they're working on. But I'm happy where I am right now, and I think that I wouldn't say I'm caught up per se, but I would say that I'm at a point where I'm gonna grow even faster.
Okay. Have you ever, during this path to your, I guess the current you, have you ever felt frustration or like when it kind of, like, was it like ever you saw other people's works, not necessarily just your friends, but like, even on YouTube or other people you admire, for example, was it ever frustration or just because you just couldn't get the shot in your mind to become, the video that you wanted it to become?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Like, you always have a lot of amazing ideas in the beginning and even now. And it really boils down to how skillful you are and how much you can get done. And sometimes you're just not good enough to make it happen. And And sometimes maybe you're not well connected enough to also make it happen. So there are times where I've seen other people's work and I'm just like, man, I wish I could do that too. And it still happens every now and then, but it's happening less and less because like you say, I would kind of catching up in a sense. So, but there are some frustrating moments, but I have changed those frustrating moments into very, learning worthy moments where, okay, what's the next thing I could do to catch up to that or become as good as that?
Okay, so it's a little bit of a self-reflection and optimism kind of mixed together, just to kind of take a bad situation or a frustrating situation, but switch it up to something where you can make it into a goal you can attain or make it more beneficial for yourself. Okay, cool. I think that's definitely something a lot of people can learn from. I had that same situation sometimes. Like I run UrbanCred or even like businesses before, and I see bigger companies and it's super frustrating because they may have the budget or they may have the tools or they may have the people, or maybe they just do it better. And it kind of sucks because you're walking this path and it's a narrow path where you're walking, but these people who maybe did it first or these people who have more resources, they can walk a huge path with multiple fucking roads that can lead to different kind of opportunities. So it's, at least from my business point of view, it's definitely very similar. And it's very frustrating. And sometimes for me, at least, I personally am a bit of an emotional person. So I think, my rock per se is my wife. So she would always like, kind of be like, bitch, why are you worrying about what other people think? Just do what you got to do what you can. Because you worrying about what other people think doesn't necessarily help what you're doing now. They don't care what you're doing now. I'm sure they have bigger fish above them too. So it's not like, and they're not worrying about them, as much as you're freaking out about what, themselves. Right. So yeah, I think, it's a lesson to learn, just to take the opportunity, just try to learn from it. So, great. So, I think that, you mentioned you're a videographer, you're a filmmaker, and I briefly mentioned that you work for a Michelin guide, right? Is that, why don't you kind of give us a simple, synopsis of like what that entails?
Used to shoot for the producer at Michelin Guide. Michelin Guide actually doesn't have a video team. It's more on like a contract role. And you find it surprising because me too, because you would think like the food, people want to see about food and, hear from chefs about their food and stuff. But surprisingly, they don't have a lot of video content. But the times that there are, the pieces are really good. You learn about, we shoot about chefs and their background and why they make the food they do and what inspired them. So there's just a bunch of really unique pieces about not only the food, but also the chef behind who cooks the food as well. And I think that's what makes shooting for Michelin Guide so special, because these people dedicate their lives to make their, restaurant as best as they can. And, they fight for these stars, and, achieving 3 stars is not easy. But I was lucky enough to dine at a few of these 3-star restaurants, and it's always been mind blowing. And not just the 3 stars one, even the 1 and 2 stars, they're all like really delicious. And each level is just different type of experience, and you can tell how hard they work. And so when you shoot for them, you just want to be able to reflect that as well. So I would say when I was shooting with them, It was quite an experience, and it was fun because you get to meet a lot of these different chefs. Think about how they process, how did they come up with this dish and why they make this dish. There's a lot of parallels between cooking and filming, so it's really interesting to be able to film that and tell their story.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. It's always cool to see the backstory, or how people who do their jobs and how they kind of proceed with how they proceed to create like a final product or a final dish in terms of food. Is it so this position then, was it something where you came across, or you met this guy producer, or did you apply?
It was actually a mutual. So I personally shot a video about a Michelin restaurant, and the chef there actually introduced me to the producer at Michelin Guide, and that's how I connected with her. She's actually based in New York, and when I moved to New York City, I hit her up, and she was really excited to meet me because she also likes the chef that I shot with a lot, and she was very interested about how I produced that video by myself and how much work I put into it, and she really liked the video I did. And so she wanted to ask me for help and work with me on some of the Michelin shoots. And right now, she's still a really good friend of mine. And but we haven't shot a Michelin video together in a while just because of the COVID thing. There's not a lot of, a lot of Michelin restaurants have been shut down and like not operating. It's only recently that they started up again. So there hasn't been a lot of food shoots at all, just because, there's no dining out option and restaurants don't have the budget to hire us to shoot these videos. But yeah, it was, I was lucky to actually be able to connect like that. I would say like a lot of times it's always these connections that can land you these special opportunities, that it's never through applying. I don't think I ever got something just from applying. Mm-hmm. It's always through a connection.
Okay. Is it, yeah, that sounds like wow, what a story. It's like almost like lucky, actually. You mentioned just now, like, you never really got any, project just by applying. Do you, like, for people who are not quite at your level, and who are hoping to learn something, do you think that it's important to be able to maybe not pick and choose, but just take what you can get and then kind of build out your network that way, and then maybe your network will introduce new projects to you?
Yeah, I definitely would say so as well. Earlier I was mentioning like some of my friends who are just picking up film and video. I gave them some of the tedious work that I don't have time to do, and they were very happy and willing to do it because they know they need to put in the hours to be able to get to the level to where I am today. And after I gave them that work and they turned it back into me, I asked them, so what was your experience like? How much did you learn from it? And they definitely said it was something that was definitely needed. They got faster the more and more they put more time into it. I gave him 2 to 3 weeks to work on it, and it's a long project. So he said he learned a lot throughout just that 2 or 3 weeks working on my tedious project that I didn't have time to do.
Right.
And I agree, because back when I first started, there was a lot of different kind of projects where I don't really want to shoot or edit, but I still did it just because I know I need to pick up some things here and there, and I'm sure I can learn something from this project. And the more projects that you work on, the more knowledge you're gonna have anyway. So yeah, at the moment when you first start, you can pick and choose, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would say try to just, take in as many experiences as you can.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I actually just the previous episode, I was talking to another friend of mine. She's a director at an animation studio, and she also mentioned similar advice, just to say, like, when you start off, it's good to experience different parts of the pipeline for that position. So for her, she can do Photoshop, but she can also jump into Adobe Premiere or whatever it is to kind of edit or cover a base for like a small studio. So it sounds like it's very similar to when it comes to video, because a lot of times when you start off, you're a one-man team, right? So for you to kind of do the tedious tasks, but do it in a way that's faster, it's more efficient through the experiences of, you know, working with you or like something of a job or position that you don't particularly like, or it may not have anything to do with the film itself, but maybe just like post-production or something like that. It gives you the experience of either working with a team or working in general in that kind of situation, or even just working in a part of that pipeline where you may not have a say in the direction of the film, but you learn the more tedious and boring parts. But without those parts, the film can't be made. So it's learning all the parts of that film, and then that will also allow you to become a better filmmaker or videographer or whatever it is. Would you say that's kind of the general idea?
Yeah, I agree with what you said.
Okay, yeah. So now, you know, we're gonna pivot real quick to food, because it's good. Because, you know, we recently spoke, and then you're like, I don't know if it's true or not, or maybe I might be remembering wrong, but you said you're trying cooking or something like that, or like you made a bubble tea, right? Of yourself. Was that kind of like always something you're interested in, or was that just kind of like a boom, I just wanted to try this?
I cook a lot.
Okay.
I rarely eat out, and I learned how to cook from these Michelin chefs. So I spent a year cooking with these Michelin chefs. So I like cooking. I spent a year cooking because I want to take some time off from filming, and I spent just a year, you know, taking a gap year from work and just learning how to cook really well. And yeah, I learned a lot. I learned everything from cooking savory food to pastry stuff to baking to making desserts.
Oh man,
to making like soup stocks, like everything you need to know.
Wow.
And in that 1 year. So yeah, I like cooking. I cook quite a lot, and if you ask me to make something, I can probably make it.
Oh man, shit! If I knew earlier, I would have had you cook something when we were like filming that thing together. Oh, so like is it like, if I asked you on the spot, cook me like, this is rude, but like cook me like some kind of like entree, appetizer, and a dessert, could you do something like that?
Yeah, if you give me the time and ingredients, I can make anything you want.
Oh man, this actually reminds me of I think I've read a story about like personal chefs or personal cooks. They come to your place and they cook for you.
Yeah. I was asked by someone who found out that I used to cook for a Michelin restaurant. And they were like, hey, do you want to come cook for me for Thanksgiving? I was like, yeah, sure.
That's so funny. Wait, how did that go then? Was that like just a turkey?
It was a friend of mine, and yeah, I prepared like the whole feast.
Holy shit.
From scratch. Yeah.
Stressful?
It was good. No, it was fun.
It was fun?
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, I had a whole menu planned and stuff.
Damn, you must have been really proud at the end of that day.
Yeah, I was like, not bad. I still have my skills. And, it tastes good.
Yeah? That's the best.
There was nothing dry. Everything was savory.
Even the turkey?
I did roast duck instead of roast turkey.
Oh, okay. That's a good call. Yeah. I am not really a cook, but if I follow recipes, then it's kind of hard to fuck up if you follow recipes. So I followed a recipe for a turkey for Thanksgiving one day, and then turned out really well. But it's not really me that cooks often, and I'm not very big on cooking. So every year after that was other people cooking. It's just really dry now. It just doesn't taste good. So,
when you get to a point for cooking, you don't need a recipe anymore because you know the theories. So you can build off those theories and make your own recipe. And that's what I usually do. So as long as you know these theories about how food works in relation to other foods and like, you know, the different senses and tastes and textures and all that stuff, you don't need a recipe anymore and you can make anything.
Damn, Shane. I should have wrote this down. You're a chef, dude. That's crazy.
I was just for a year.
Well, if you can still cook, you're still a chef in my book. So, oh man, that's awesome. Man, I'm hungry. We should change the topic. Let me change the topic. Let's see. Cool. So, okay. So what is your favorite dish? Like what's your favorite, cuisine to cook?
Man, I like a lot, but I would say, damn.
I stumped you.
Probably French, just because there's so much techniques involved, but I like to cook a lot of Japanese dishes with French techniques.
Oh.
And that's where most of these restaurants, that's what most of these famous restaurants do. They do a lot of they use a lot of Japanese ingredients, they use French techniques on them, and then kind of spin it into something new. But it's not necessarily Japanese, but it's just because Japanese people have these their food and their dining is just all the way at the top, so it's just they're trying to make that even better using better technique.
Okay.
So I would say I like French food / Japanese food.
Is that kind of considered fusion kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I would say so, but at a point, once you pass a certain level, it just food, creative food. Yeah.
Word. It's time for a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hey there, thanks for listening. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Before we continue, I'd like to tell you a bit about UrbanCred.com. If you don't already know, we're a small team based out of New York City, searching the world for high-quality gear, focusing on design and functionality. Being someone who's always on the move, whether for school, work, or travel, we understand the necessity for your stuff to not break down when you need it the most. Something that looks professional, yet subtly sleek, and will keep on hustling right alongside you without missing a beat. Interested? Come check us out for all your gear needs and more by visiting us at UrbanCred.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
So your favorite cuisine is Japanese food with a French twist on it, right? So, and you were talking about Japanese food, how good it is and things like that. And, I know that you've been to Japan quite a bit throughout your life. And that's only one place out of the many places you've been. Could you list the places off the top of your head where you have been?
Where I've traveled in my life?
Yeah.
Compared to a lot of people, I've only started traveling in 2018. Before that, the only places I've ever been in my life was just Taiwan and US. And just because I was born in Taiwan and I moved to the US when I was little, so I would just visit Taiwan every now and then and come back to the US and go to Taiwan every now and then. So I've never been anywhere else. It wasn't until 2018 I was like, how can I travel and see these different places using what I know? And then that's when I started reaching out to different travel companies and were like, oh, hey, let me shoot stuff for you for free, but in exchange, pay for my ticket, pay for my accommodation, pay for my food, and I'll, go work for you and get to travel these places too. So because of that, I got to go to Peru. I got to go to Ecuador. I got to go to Bolivia. I went to Colombia. I went to Spain. I went to Italy. I went to Shanghai. I went to Beijing. I went to Singapore. I went to Malaysia. I went to Japan. Where else have I gone? That's all I can remember out at the top of my head. I feel like I also been to other places, but yeah, but that's like the big spots.
Wow, dude, 2018 to now, that's still like in that period of time, that many places. That's pretty crazy.
It's mostly in the span of 1 year.
Oh, okay, but that's even crazier.
Yeah,
it's you've been so many places in 1 year. That's nuts. Like I travel at most 2 places.
Yeah,
and that's because I have to.
I just bounced around from country to country and had my stuff in the storage unit.
Oh wow! So wait, how does that work then? You just every place has a storage space, and then you just kind of toss it in?
No. I had all my stuff back at home in California in a storage space.
Oh, okay.
And then when I finished my travels, I came back and decided to move to New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story.
That's a very short. That's a really short story. So then was this like, how did you figure this out? Like, how did you think to contact businesses to have them pay for your trips?
I just thought that, video and travel kind of go hand in hand. People want to see it. People want to live vicariously through, if they can't afford it, the least they can do is search it up and look where they could go. And I've seen quite a lot of people do it. But back then, 2018, there wasn't that many people who was doing it. There's only like a handful of really famous YouTubers that were doing it. So I was like, okay, they're hitting up all like the famous spots, like the famous companies, like Four Seasons, and basically all the big ass hotels and big ass travel companies. So I was like, okay, why don't I go a step or 2 steps lower and look for the local stuff? So I literally like went to, search up Peru, search up local travel companies, and I literally like emailed each single one of them, and they were happy to accept me. And that's how all these different countries were like, hey, yeah, come, we'll pay for it. Because basically it's already part of their package. They don't have to spend anything extra. They kind of just add me into that package. And all they had to pay for was my ticket. And I travel during the off season. And so it's not that expensive for them as well.
That's cool. The partnership sounds like a win-win for everyone, actually.
Yeah, and that 1 year was enough to build my portfolio for me to start my career.
Wow.
So I could start charging people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's something I don't think a lot of people would think of doing to build their portfolio. I think people are just very traditional, trying to look for jobs, maybe do some projects for free. But this way you kind of are able to, travel, have some fun, but enjoy what you're doing while, kind of get a feel for different cultures around the world. So that's really cool. Man, the more we speak, the more I envy your life. Oh man.
But it has been unstable, but then it's only recently since I settled down in New York that my career has been growing. Or else during my travel, I was like, man, I hope I have enough money. It's like, cause I still had to pay like my college debt and everything.
All right.
So it was like, I hope I saved up enough, even though they're paying for like the necessities.
All right.
I might want to buy some gifts for people. I might want to try to eat, famous cuisine there at this country. So it's like I was living off my savings.
True.
And, even though I got to travel to all these places for free, I didn't have a source of income. And it's really hard to pick up like gigs until you had a portfolio. And even then, it's hard to sell yourself because I never learning to sell myself was like also a skill I picked up over the years. Yeah.
Wow. Is that a skill that you suggest people to practice?
Yeah, definitely. Like if you're in the freelance world, it's important to know how to market yourself. It's like the number one thing people forget to do. I have so many friends who are so good creatively, but they suck at marketing themselves, and they're getting cheated on. Like they're working so many hours for a third or even a quarter of what I'm making because they don't know how to sell themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's important.
That's true. Yeah, I think it's important to understand your worth and to be able to match up your price with what you know you can offer. So that's really important.
It's definitely a learning curve, though.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, "Oh, I can do it for cheap," and then I realized, "Well, that's gonna hurt the market, and it's just gonna affect everyone else, and everyone else is charging at this price. I've seen their work. Why can't I also charge at that price?" So it's like really learning about what you can and can't do. So I would suggest start now. Try to learn how to market yourself as soon as you can.
Is it one of those you talk to yourself in the mirror, or is it one of those you just try, you just keep doing it?
No, you just have to keep doing it. You just every time you talk to a new client, you just have to be brave and be, really know what you're talking about, because at the end of the day, you have to know what you're talking about, or else if you can't deliver something, it's that goes that relationship, and you want to build a relationship with every person you work with.
All right. Yeah. Has the process to sell yourself, have you ever got off a car or you're like, shit, I fucked up?
Yeah, a few times. I actually just like 2 days ago, I had a new prospective gig, and it paid really well. And it fell through, and, it just happens sometimes. Like sometimes they're not that, you're not the person they're looking for, or sometimes they find a cheaper person, or sometimes they find a better person too. So just like, there's just a lot of different factors, and you just have to find the right way to crack into what they need, but or not trying to undersell yourself at the same time.
Right. And if you fail, just keep on trucking, right?
Yeah. So now I know, like, okay, next time I wouldn't say this, or next time I'll try adding this,
Right. Yeah. Try different things. It's a good idea. So I know you, between Taiwan, because your family's in Taiwan, right? And then you're in New York because you live in New York. You also travel to Japan a lot, right? Is that because of just how much you like that place, or?
No, my girlfriend lives there, so.
Oh, right. Guys, he's taken. Or girls, he's taken.
If my girlfriend lives there, so every time I go to Japan, I don't have to spend anything on accommodation. Man. And she speaks Japanese, so she actually lands me a lot of gigs in Japan.
Oh, wow.
So I get to shoot a lot there too because of that reason.
Do you like Japan? Is it like is that your, like, a lot of people I talk to, oh, I love Japan, I wish I could go every day. Is that like your favorite place, or do you have like another place like Peru or something?
I like all the places I've been, but Japan is special just because, my girlfriend's there.
Right.
And it is a very unique culture and unique atmosphere you can't find anywhere else. And I do love it. And each city has its own thing to offer. And there's so many things you can see. And I think Japan is honestly the best place for photos. And it's true. Even though other countries, there's a lot of different things I just think Japan, personally, from top to bottom, every prefecture has something unique to offer, and that is you can't find anywhere else.
That's true. And I can, it's not just because you're saying it, but like I'm scrolling through your Instagram and, you know, a lot of the photos you're shooting, you know, it's just like, it has that ambiance. So it gives off that feeling of, you know, tranquility and like minimalist and like just peace. So it's really nice. It's great. Has, aside from your girlfriend landing you a lot of gigs and all that, how has like this, how has like being in a relationship, like affected your life or affected your work or things like that?
We met while I was doing my traveling. So to be honest, not much has changed, because even when we met, I was kind of doing gigs here and there. And even after it got better after I settled down in a place, because then there was like some stability to it. You know, I'm not waking up in the middle of the desert one day and she's like, oh, I'm going to school. And the next morning she's like, I'm still going to school. And then I'm in a jungle now. You know,
Right.
You know, there's been times like that. But then after I, you know, settled down in New York City, hey, I work today. Oh, I'm going to school today. Oh, I'm waking up for work today. You know, it's just more normal.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have a more normal relationship now, you know, normal, stable, long distance relationship, you know, she's been a good supportive block on whatever venture I'm going into, whether it's like a new project idea I want to lead or a new gig here and there, and how much my career has, you know, improved since moving here. There's just a bunch of, you know, good talks. You know, it's a very mature relationship.
That's good. Yeah, I feel the same with my sometimes mature relationship. I'm sometimes pretty immature, but I think all guys are immature at heart. But is it something that you would think that it was like the relationship has played a big part in how you grew to become what you are today?
Yes and no. I've always been kind of a person who always had my eyes on the prize, mm-hmm. and a relationship not going to change that. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't go into a relationship if the person I'm with isn't supportive of what I want to do. Okay. So it'll only help me go towards my goal, right. And it wouldn't hurt it.
Right.
So yeah, I would say, yeah, relationships have changed me for the better, just because me personally, I know what I'm striving towards.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Have you guys ever, I guess it wouldn't count really because you guys are kind of living separately, but have you ever had conversations about like a particular project or like going somewhere or doing something, or has it always been, you know, you guys are pretty supportive of each other?
We talked about like, oh, hey, I might have a shoot here. Do you want to come with me if you have time mm-hmm. to do this shoot with me here? Because just because I've worked on a lot of shoots with her, so it's natural that I ask her first. But we did talk about, okay, how much we're going to see each other. Mm-hmm. How we're gonna be able to make this work, and so far it's been great. Mm-hmm. We're kind of able to see each other every 3 months, and it's good because of that. That's good.
Is it is long distance hard for you or?
No, because we're both really busy, and and it works well because of that. If one of us isn't busy, then the relationship dynamic would change. But
right,
because we're both so busy, that the relation dynamic works really well.
It's like a balance.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, we are working towards a goal of eventually, living in the same country.
And
So
which country would that be?
maybe Singapore.
Oh, wow. Okay. So not even like Japan or the US, but like,
I mean, I would try to start up something in Singapore, but at the same time, if I were going to be making movies, my home base would still be in New York. So I would be going back and forth a lot.
okay. That's pretty cool. Is there something you really like about Singapore to choose as your second home base?
That's where she's from.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh,
And Singapore has a great passport compared to US now.
that is true. The US passport kind of sucks now.
Yeah, so
I mean-
I'd rather have a strong passport, you know?
Yeah, for real. Okay. And okay, so we spoke briefly also about you just started something else. It is a nonprofit. You just got a certification. It is called East Side Stories, right?
Yep.
So, I know when I asked you about it, you're like, oh, you directed me to a video, but do you think you can kind of like break down, what it's all about and why you did it?
Yeah. So East Side Stories is now officially a nonprofit media organization, where we talk about a lot of Asian American stories, a lot of more of the untold sides of Asian American stories, kind of like, trying to break the model minority myth and trying to debunk that Asians are more than just boba or raves and ABGs,
Right.
There's more to the Asian story than just that. And we're kind of trying to, diversify that, and that there's more than just Chinese Americans, Japanese Americans. There's,
Right.
Pacific Islanders, they're all like Asians.
Right.
There's like, South Asians are also Asians, there's so many different Asian stories out there for us to tell. And we just want to be able to find a platform to talk about that. And I thought, well, why don't I just start something in New York City? Because New York City is already a hub full of different Asians. And just in New York City, there's a lot of Asian stories that goes untold. I can't reveal too much, but we're working on a lot of different short film ideas that kind of talks about these things, like whether it's about poverty in Asians. There's Asians who live in poverty. People don't talk about that a lot. There are Asians who are working in more of roles that are not really, not doctors, not lawyers. There's, they work on some more of the more blue collar stuff and some even more kind of even illegal stuff. Those are stuff that, people don't talk about, but it's part of the Asian life. And that's a side that we need to talk about too. And these are scripts that I'm writing that talk about those things. And I just wanted to be able to have a nonprofit where people kind of support, Asian representation on media, but also towards, stories that haven't been told much. And I think it needs to be told.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a sector that has been really spoken about. There's always like, I think the filmmakers who are doing, Fresh Off the Boat or, what was it? Crazy Rich Asians or, what was the one, in Canada about it was on Netflix. It's,
Yeah.
I forget. I forget what it was, but anyways, like it's about bit of like a stereotypical version of the Asian community,
Narrative,
right? Yeah. So like it's like Fresh Off the Boat's last stereo. I mean, I as an Asian growing up in New York City, I relate to that. But I mean, it's very stereotypical. Crazy Rich Asians is a very heightened, extreme version of, what, I mean, that's just the extreme version. Like, I don't think any of us live like that, right? So it's definitely something to be able to kind of go into the heart of all the Asians as a collective and how they represent themselves, right? So like everyone's a different person. It's just like how it doesn't matter who you are. Everyone's a different person, right? Different background. So it's awesome that you guys are doing this. Do you guys have a channel that you guys started? It's East Side Stories. You already have some videos up, right? So I think some of them are like how they know they're in love, what makes you fall out of love, worst things that happen to you in a relationship. So it seems like you guys are starting off with like relationships and how they encountered, just kind of like telling their story. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's a few things we're kind of working on, kind of short videos like that, talking to everyday Asian American public about, their own stories, kind of like short versions of that. There's also films that I'm writing that talks about these untold stories, like I was speaking. And we're also making mini documentaries of entrepreneurs who are, kind of self-starters who are not, part of that STEM route that I was talking about. And we're kind of just highlighting all these different narratives and showing all sides of Asian Americans, from talking about relationships and love to like, family to entrepreneurship, and also like just films about Asian Americans.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I as Asian American, I support that totally, and it's cool that you guys do it. It gives off like, if you guys haven't seen it, it definitely gives off a. I was talking with Shane. It gives off like a Jubilee Project vibe. It's very, it's very relatable, and it's something where I watched some of the videos and it was very, some of the answers they give are, cringy, but not in like it's not like a bad way. It's more of like I've been there, done that kind of embarrassing way, which is good because it's good to know that other people are out there who've experienced the same shit you experienced. So it's really cool to see, Shane, you and your team be able to kind of create these awesome mini stories that people kind of, especially for Asians to be able to relate to, because there's not much out there that, we can like look into or look up to or kind of relate to. So, as Asian myself, I definitely thank you for starting something like this. So it's really cool to see that.
And we just started, so we're a small team at the moment, but there's a lot of people who actually just today applied to be part of this organization, and we're kind of slowly building from the ground up at the moment, and we're excited of where it can go from here, and especially the fact that we're nonprofit. We are definitely doing it because we want to, really highlight Asian representation in media. We're doing it for a cause, so none of us are getting paid for it. We're all volunteers. Yeah. Right.
Is it, are you guys actively looking for more people to volunteer, or?
Yeah, we are. We are looking for not only creatives, even though it is a creative field at the end of the day, but there are a lot of logistics to it, like social media, SEO, and marketing, branding, all that stuff. And there's even governance to this whole, because a nonprofit, you need a board of directors to kind of approve of things and all that stuff. There's a lot of nitpicky things that just not on the creative side as well. So we're looking for all types of people. There's accountants who are interested in, helping us consult with, questions we have about, tax stuff. There's people who are trying to help us with graphic design. There's people who want to help direct some films, edit some films. And there are people who want to volunteer to help us with our SEO and engagement. And we're continually looking for that, because we are all volunteering. None of us are doing this full time. We just started this nonprofit. we're not making any money off of it as of yet. Obviously, the money we're making is going towards whatever projects we're going to work on. It's not for profit, but you know, this is a labor of love.
Sounds great. So if you guys are interested, you know, definitely check out East Side Stories. They're always looking for people, and it doesn't matter what field you are in. Just shoot them a email or a message, and then let them know what you're able to do, and then, you know, maybe they can kind of take it from there. And just, you know, you gotta sell yourself, guys. You just gotta sell yourself.
If you want to sponsor us or donate to us, please do. We would love that.
Yeah, I definitely, you know, UrbanCred definitely would love to at some point be able to kind of put some time, effort, or money into East Side Stories at some point too. So we're definitely, you know, don't just sit there. You know, if the opportunity's there, you got to go grab it. So that's what we're doing here. Now for the listeners who are aspiring filmmakers or videographers, what are 3 pieces of advice you would give them?
In terms of
just like if they were just fresh out of college and they had no direction on how to proceed, but they want to be just like you. They're like, oh, I want to be Shane 2.0. Like how would they get there?
Well, I wouldn't recommend being like me.
Okay.
I would recommend to find yourself. That would be number 1. After you find yourself and know what you like, what you don't like, that's when you can really deep dive into the direction you want to go towards. You know, I'm someone that's okay with editing, but I love shooting. I love planning. I love creating ideas. So if I put it all together, it's the perfect role to become a videographer. And videographers make a lot of money because they're a one-man team. Mm-hmm. I have friends who only love shooting, and that's why they're a cinematographer. And their only job is to make sure the image looks good on set. You know, they plan and light and get the right angles. But, you know, that's a different role and that's a different life. And you get paid differently. The process is different. When I'm on set, I'm usually a director, and I also get paid differently as a director. And my job role is also different. You know, I don't touch the camera. I only focus on directing the film and talking to actors. So it's a lot of different hats, you know, and so very important. You got to find yourself first before you kind of dive into the direction you want to head towards. And secondly, I would say definitely, know exactly, after you find yourself, take the time to shoot or do what you want to do. If you want to produce, try to produce a lot of films. You know, if you want to direct, try to be an assistant director on different films. You know, try to see how other directors work. If you want to be a shooter, try to shoot as many projects as you can. Then you know what you like to shoot and what you don't like to shoot, or like what you like to produce, what you don't like to produce. You know, maybe you like producing music videos and you hate producing commercials. You know, you gotta experience all these different type of shoots. So then you know exactly what you want to branch into, because in video and film, there's so many different categories as well, you know. So that would be my second tip, is to just test out what you like. And then the final thing is, you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, why are you doing it? You know, find the thing that you enjoy doing the most in terms of video, film. The reason why a lot of people who, you know, even though some of my friends are making a ton of money, but they're not that happy. And I'm not making a ton of money right now, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And that makes a whole bunch of difference. You know, you want to live you can live a well-off life, but if you feel empty on the inside, what's the point? And so you gotta enjoy doing what you want, doing what you like. If you don't enjoy it, why are you doing it? So that's my 3 suggestions: is to, first of all, find yourself, test out what you like, and lastly, enjoy what you're doing.
Wise words. You sound like fucking Yoda, dude. That's it right there. All right, Shane. Well, thank you for coming onto the show. I think it was really fun. I really enjoyed, creeping into your Instagram and taking part of your life. I hope you had some fun, kind of helping our listeners with their journey, but also kind of giving some insight on what you do.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on this.
If people wanted to find you, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Shane P. Liao. Or you can look at my newest nonprofit that I created with my team in New York City. It's East Side Stories NYC on Instagram, or eastsidestories.org.
Okay, cool. Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining us in this episode. If you're new, UrbanCred focuses on curating high-quality gear with sick design and awesome practicality. See more at urbancred.com. If you like what you hear, show some love by leaving a review. It's a huge help to us in getting more people to hear these stories, and also encourages us to keep on hustling. Many thanks to Admiral Bob Grapes and Rachel K. Collier for the awesome music and soundtrack. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.